what would be your Fursona?
My inner real persona would have to be like Ralphie the Moose. So that if I ever got sick of it, I could dance up on the highway, walk in front of a semi-tractor trailer, and put a fucking end to it.
Welcome to your last podcast, the last podcast in the game, but the first you should listen to. I'm your host, Colton Simpson, and with me this week, and hopefully every week, starting at the other end of the table, we have Mr. Listen himself, Josh Vey.
How you doing?
And next to him, we have our resident audiophile, William Ham Clark.
Hi.
And last but certainly not least, we have the amazing Grace Tatigian.
Hello, hello.
So what is your last podcast? We're a conversational podcast, meaning that every week each of us brings a topic to the table to argue amongst ourselves and talk it out for your amusement. If you like that, be sure to subscribe to the podcast feeds to make sure you don't miss a new episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. So, with all that out of the way, we'll get things started off with Ham. What's your topic?
All right, so I came in with a banger. We have to start off strong here.
Yeah, we know. All right.
All right. So I wanted to start off with what would be your Fursona? And for anyone listening here right now, your Fursona would be your animal counterpart in the furry community. And if you don't know what that is, just Google it.
Or don't.
No,
don't.
no.
Be careful what you Google
Don't.
there.
If you Google it, make sure you have safe search on.
If you're on Chrome, use the incognito mode.
Yeah, you don't want them following that.
Don't do that at work, for God's sakes.
God.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a what's your spirit animal, but for the 21st century, I guess.
I guess for the internet
The
community.
internet community, yeah, since 2009, 2010 maybe.
The world's gone, boy. The world's gone.
All right, so Ham, get things started. What is your Fursona?
So if I had to pick a animal to represent my inner self, I think I'd pick like some sort of battered shelter dog.
Aw.
Oh,
God.
great. All right, yeah.
Starting things off real light.
You're Red or Heinz 57.
Heinz 57.
Okay, very good.
It's mostly just because I'm pretty, I don't know, I'm pretty sensitive, a little bit mopey, like
You're like,
you know,
you're sort of like
scruffy.
one of them ones at the SPCA
I think-
that never got adopted on.
I think I'm lovable enough.
Scraggly
Sure.
but lovable.
Yeah, I think that's a good descriptor. I don't think I'd be like a wolf or anything like wild or
You're not like a Siberian husky or anything like that.
so like a domestic dog that's like a little bit broken. I think is mine because I think I'm loyal and lovable.
Any tricks though? That's all anyone wants to know. Can you perform?
Well, I'm not going to get into that here.
You're not going to get adopted that way, my son. I'm going to tell you right now.
All right, Josh, I'm dying to hear.
Oh,
Come on, what's your
right.
Fursona?
Well, when we were talking about this originally, like as a proposed topic, I just thought to myself, like, why the world is gone. Like, what the hell am I going to talk about for this, right? So anyways, like you would, I had to go and educate myself on the topic, right? So gets on the computer, right? So it gets on the computer, sits down, and I type in Fursona, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of shit comes up. There's millions of stuff on there. You can indulge yourself. I mean, there's all
Really
kinds
indulge.
of not too much though. Be careful what you click on. But anyways, one of the things that came up was a quiz. What's your Fursona quiz, right? So, anyways, I said, well, let's investigate that a little bit. I suppose it's just a while to go in there.
I'm impressed.
So I go in there, right? And it's like one of them little Facebook quizzes, all kinds of bullshit answers, got absolutely nothing to do with what you're interested in, right? So it was like, what's your favorite color? Okay, all right, click that one, red. I was like, very good. And then it was like, what's your favorite type of food? And the list was real strange. It was like Subway sandwiches, oysters, bottled orange juice. And I was like, oh, okay, very good. So, click on Subway. I guess it's the lesser of the evils there. And then another one in particular that I thought was pretty funny was, how do you dance? Do you foxtrot, tango, or do you just nod your head like Mike Tyson? I was like, all right, well, I guess I nod my head.
I guess they want to know for like mating dances or something like that.
Oh.
It could be. I mean, you got to stand out, right?
Is Mike Tyson known for nodding his head?
I have no idea.
Like,
I stopped asking all these questions when I invested myself in this quiz, right? So anyways,
That's fair.
through the jigs and reels, right? Clicks, enter, results. You know what it's like, the suspense when you see that fucking spinning wheel going on.
Oh, I can't
no.
wait.
Sitting there like quivering in anticipation, right? So anyways, up she comes. And it said, congratulations. Your fursona is Gibber, the antelope. And I said, what? Gibber, the antelope. So that would be my fursona. Now.
So give you name too, not just an animal.
Oh, I guess Gibber would be the name and the antelope would be the type, right? I'm assuming. It could be two names. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Or is that-
Gibber, is that a sound?
Yeah.
Or is that a kind of antelope? Like,
I don't know. You're more educated on the topic than
I
me.
don't fucking know. Anyways, so I was looking at that and just thinking, oh my Jesus. You know, if my grandmother knew this, she'd say extra prayer for me. That's her mother-in-law, sure. So anyways, that was all fine and good. So, you know, wrote that down, took a little screenshot of it, right? So I said, I got to bring
you
that up
need
tonight.
evidence, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no one's going to believe that shit. Anyways, I started thinking about it afterwards. Now, if I hadn't had done the quiz, what would my fursona be? And based on all the stuff I saw, if I was involved in that community, my fursona, by gut, would have, like, my inner real fursona would have to be like Ralphie the Moose. So that if I ever got sick of it, I could dance up on the highway, walk in front of a semi-tractor trailer and put a fucking end to it and just be done with it. Because, I mean, like, come on, boy. Like, for Christ's sake, she's gone off the rails. The world's gone.
So you had a name for the moose as well. Did you Google up what the moose fursona was called?
Apparently, you got to have a first name.
Oh God.
It's not enough to just say I'm a moose. No, you got to identify it as a specific one, right? You got to sort through the mooses.
Mooses.
You need to separate yourself from the pack, if you will.
That's right. You got it. Thank you, Grace. You did some research. Did you take a quiz?
I absolutely did not. I decidedly did no research whatsoever because I don't know how to clear my internet history. So
Well, you got to know that going in. You don't want Amazon sending you ads for this type of stuff.
Exactly
after you do
why.
one search, right?
Or maybe you do.
I avoided doing all research.
give up.
I would like to say I would be something like a well-loved house cat because I mean they've got it so good. All they do is like eat and sleep and be pampered, and but I don't think I am calm and collected enough to be a house cat.
You're like a meerkat, not a house cat, scurrying around, always going.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the
Working.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Always going, industrious, neurotic, a little twitchy. So I was thinking definitely some kind of rodent. At first I thought squirrel. But they're just too brazen. I'm too nervous to be a squirrel. I don't think I could pull it off.
Listen, one of them get in your cabin, look out. Devastation, a squirrel will leave if he gets inside.
So I figured I was more like a chipmunk, you know, like not too disruptive, but, you know, still industrious, always planning ahead, storing nuts for winter. I don't have a name picked out, but
Well, think on that.
I'm going to go with like Brownie the chipmunk or something like
Brownie the chipmunk.
that. I don't know. They're kind of brown.
Gertie the chipmunk, I put that one.
It's got to rhyme with like
Sounds like she
Ralphie.
plans for winter, eh?
Yeah, and when I had no clue what to say for this topic, of course. Just Ham comes out of the gate with a banger. And I know a little bit about the furry community just because of a movie reviewer I follow. Like he's a member of the furry community. I watched him for like a full year or more, and I just never even had a clue. And then at one point I started listening to his podcast, and he was talking about how he was a gay furry. And I just thought he was kind of being edgy or making a joke of it, but he was actually a gay furry. And he said he identifies as a horse. So I was like, oh God, I never even knew he was a furry. Anyways.
I would have thought he was just gay and furry, like not excess hair or something.
He does have long hair. He looks like Ham back in like grade 10. Like in terms of the
Pink
hair,
gloves?
like, well, I don't know if he wears pink gloves, but all the way down, like right to like the nipple line, you know,
I mean,
long hair.
Would the gloves fit over the hooves is the real question.
That's true.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not even sure if he wears. I'm not even sure if he wears a suit. I have no clue. But in terms of myself, I was like, all right, I want something that's gonna stand out a little bit. If I'm gonna go to one of these conventions where they all gather,
Do they have conventions?
Oh yes.
Oh, there we
So
go.
that's why they build the suits. I'm pretty sure it's like, you know, like how people build cosplay or I don't know, get dressed up for Halloween parties or something. Like
Okay.
they go to conventions dressed in their fur suits.
I mean, when is enough, right? Like, why can't you just be into feet or something? If you're going to be a bit off the cuff. Like, why do you got to go down that road? But
Anyway, so if I was going to go to my convention, I'd want to stand out. And since it's a furry convention, I thought, all right, I got to stand out. I'm going to pick something like scaly. something
Break the mold.
Got to break the mold. So I was thinking, all right, something scaly. Plus, you know, I'm a fan of reptiles or dinosaurs and all that shit anyway. So something scaly. And I was like, what do I like to do? Like, just starting this podcast and going out talking with Josh all the time. I'm like, I use my jaws an awful lot. Something with a strong set of jaws on it. And yeah, basically I was just like, I'm just gonna go with an alligator. So I went with an American alligator. There wasn't really too much of a reason other than, yeah, it has a cold exterior, you know, but cold-blooded.
Same thing.
They're, you know, people think they're a bit lethargic, but really they're just opportunistic. They're just lying in wait.
Bullshit, but dead on. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're dangerous. So they're just lying in wait and something comes along, snap, they're at it. So I was like, yeah, I guess maybe an alligator. I've
But what would
no
your
clue.
name be?
Alex the alligator.
That's what I was thinking, Alex, but with, what was yours? Yipper?
Gibber.
Gibber.
Come on.
All
Maybe
right.
the J is silent. It could be. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Alex the alligator or like Arnie the alligator. I don't know.
I like Arnold.
Arnold the
You
alligator.
usually go for the alliteration.
I
I'm
do.
shocked you never went for Colton the crocodile.
See, and that's the thing. I was gonna go with the crocodile, but the bite force. Crocodile is like number 7. American alligator number 4.
Very important.
Yeah,
fact.
very important. If I'm gonna be a
Very
furry, I want
divisive.
to make sure it's strong.
You want to make sure you can kill someone.
I
You
mean,
only want to. You go to one of them. See what goes on. You never know.
I'm shocked that you're so against it just because, all right, you come home, you're with a girl for a few months. Come home. She's waiting in the bedroom. Got nothing on, but she has a tail
You wouldn't
on,
into that.
like a furry tail. You'd walk out?
What are you asking me? Like, what are you asking me here?
Like, you would just leave? Like, if you went home? Like,
If I went in, I seen someone start naked on the bed, but there was a tail. I'm gone. There would be no hips, hands, or butts. There'd be a Josh-shaped hole in the wall. I wouldn't even go to the door.
Just Kool-Aid Man, out of there.
Gone.
Gone.
Just out of here. Oh yeah, gone.
Oh.
What about you, Ham? You leaving?
No, God, no.
He's a loyal dog, remember?
Are you throwing on your fursuit and joining?
I mean, like, if they wanted me to wear the fursuit, I guess I'd think about it.
Oh my blessed
Like,
days.
Those things are stinky, man. Like, and they're hard to build. Like, you know, they're constructed
and
out of
probably
foam.
harder
And,
to clean.
yeah, I don't know if
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
that committed to it.
Yeah.
Maybe you could, like, bark or some shit.
Well, what do you got? Like, what brings that to your mind? Like, how do you decide? Like, I'm going to indulge in this now. I mean, I'd have to be higher than an astronaut's arse to ever start thinking about something like that. Like, where do you think that comes from? Where is that a primal urge in everyone to be like an animal, their inner animal? Where does that come from?
You kind of have that in, like, Native American culture and stuff like that. And, like, that's a thing. But, like, I don't know how, like, a bunch of, like, weird, usually, like, white 20-year-olds find out about that. Besides, like, weird, like, furry porn on the internet.
Oh,
Oh, and that's a
I'm
whole
regretting
other.
this question
Yeah,
already.
no, that's a whole other topic. That shit's explicit. I remember, like, on
Yeah.
Facebook, I've seen people with banner ads. I'm not gonna point them out, but like,
Don't get me
it
wrong.
is.
Don't get me wrong. I understand what you're saying in terms of like the Native American stuff, but like he's Aboriginal, I'm Aboriginal. I believe you are. I don't know if Grace is.
No.
But it's the type of thing where it's like, yes, the caribou is important, but we don't ever want to be one of them. We want to eat them.
I don't know. You're pretty close to a caribou over there. What are you?
Moose.
Antler, moose,
Hot, see?
antelope, not antler. What about you, Grace? Deal breaker? Not a deal breaker?
I think it would be a conversation. I'm not one to discriminate against people. I don't think it's my thing, but I think it would really depend on how important it was to them, what aspects of their life did it impact, what they expected from me out of it. I would definitely be a conversation. There wouldn't be a Grace-shaped hole in the wall.
How many cups of tea would it take for that conversation to resolve itself?
I don't
You think
know,
it'd be a major one, or like just skim it over and see what happens?
How many cups of tea?
Yeah, like, would it be a long conversation? Or
Okay. Well, they would have to be caffeine-free cups of tea because otherwise I'd just be too nervous. But I don't know. I guess as long as it takes to have the conversation, depend how important it is.
for me, it'd be real simple. It'd be like, is there a chance that you change your mind in terms of, is there a chance the tail can come off and be stored away or fired in the garbage? And if the answer was no, all right.
Yeah, if they just said no and I'm Ellie the elephant,
Well,
you know? Like,
well, it's just as well for us to put a bullet in this relationship right now.
All right.
That would be my answer.
That's fair. At least
No
you're honest
leading
about
on.
it.
yeah, I mean, I'd entertain it if it was like a one night thing, role playing, sexy kitten type shit, I'd entertain it for
Sexy antelope type.
well, I don't know.
Use your words carefully.
Yeah, just I'd entertain it for one evening maybe, but if it was something that was a multiple thing where it's like they need it in order to get in the mood or something like that, like
That'd be a bit much.
I think I'd probably be out as well. I don't want to be dressing up like a crocodile and going to town or an alligator. Yeah, and going to town. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if like I'd like want to go to like conventions and stuff, just because that sounds like it'd be exhausting.
Oh yeah.
So would you be Ham the Hound if you had to?
Oh my.
If you had to be Ham the Hound, would that be you?
That's adorable.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
definitely.
Oh, that is good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But no, I think that covers furries for us. I think. If you guys are into that, like, no judging. We're just bullshit.
Oh, maybe a little bit of judging from that end of
Yeah,
the
a
table
lot of
for
judging
sure.
from Josh.
There's just a little bit of reason. That's all. A little bit of reason. We gotta keep this conversation grounded. We're going up on Mars or in space somewhere, okay?
All right, and
All right, we'll hand it over to Grace.
Alrighty, so I mean, we're talking about unsettling topics, particularly for Josh.
yeah.
My topic was ghosts, so I figured we'd start with ghosts. Do you believe in them? Yes or no? Do you have any kind of qualms? Do you have any experiences to do with ghosts? I'm a pretty open-minded person. I would not be surprised if there are ghosts, but I've never really had any experiences myself with them.
So you don't live your life in fear.
No, well, I do, but not of ghosts.
Not of ghosts. All right, fair.
But for instance, the funny story. So my former roommate, when I was in university, she had started talking to this guy, and she thought he was really good looking, and she was hoping things were going to go somewhere. And there's a lot of flirtation around it, and I didn't understand what the appeal was at all. But she was pretty interested. And then one day they were hanging out, and somehow the topic of ghosts comes up in conversation, and she kind of laughs it off. And he gets incredibly serious and then proceeds to explain to her in great detail why ghosts are real and why she is wrong and why, absolutely nothing at all can happen until she listens to all of the reasons why ghosts are real.
So he was setting the mood. Is what you're saying.
Exactly. So a good friend of his also happens to be a good friend of mine, and they'd been friends for years.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next time I saw my buddy, I said, "What is it with your friend and ghosts?" He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "He's obsessed with goats." My roommate was over there the other day, and that's
Goats or
all ghosts. That's all he would talk
Not
about.
that furry community, is it?
And he said, "I have never once heard him talk about ghosts. What are you talking about? Like, are you confusing him with someone else?" I said, "No, I am he was obsessed." Sure enough, the next time that the two of them hang out, he was like, "Oh, let me talk about ghosts." And my buddy texts me just absolutely in stitches, could not believe, because he'd known the guy for years, never once talked about ghosts. And now all of a sudden it's like the main topic of conversation.
Yeah, like did this person have a ghost experience or anything?
I think he had several ghost experiences.
Okay. Yeah.
And was absolutely, for me, if you believe in ghosts, okay. If you don't believe in ghosts, okay. But for him, this was a deal breaker. If you
Listen.
do not believe in ghosts.
Serious question. Did your friend ghost him after that conversation? Did she ghost him?
I don't think so. I think
No.
they kept chatting, but I think the romance was definitely sucked out of the situation.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't really have a ghost story either. Like the one closest I have is I remember when we were at our old spot, just when the three of us were living there, on Ladysmith back in the day, and there was times when there would only be two of us living in the house, and something like, okay, I know that Ham is gone to bed. It is like 3 a.m, and I'm up late playing, I don't know, Dota 2 or playing some sort of video game, StarCraft or something, I don't know. And I'd just be sitting there and I'd hear footsteps going around the house. And I was just like, what the hell? Like, why is Ham up wandering around? I'd go open the door. He's not there. Now, I live with Ham now, and if I heard footsteps, I'd know it's just him going up in the middle of the night. But back then, he wasn't wandering around all the time like he is now. So I was like, who is this? And I remember there was actually one night where I heard footsteps so strongly that I turned off my podcast. I usually listen to podcasts when I'm going to bed. And I heard it over the podcast, like it sounded like someone was stomping down the hall. And I went out and I checked and there was nobody there. And I heard it continue. Like it sounded like it was going down the stairs. Like I honestly thought someone was like breaking into the house or something.
That is terrible.
Yeah, so I followed it downstairs, and you remember the basement in the old house. I kind of creeped down the stairs, pitch black down there, turn on the light, nobody there. But, so I was like, what the hell was that? And I was like, oh, maybe the people downstairs were stomping around, because they were really loud sometimes who lived below us. But I have no clue what it was. It could have been ghosts. I mean, stomping in the hallway, it could have been a worse ghost. It could have done something worse than that. But, yeah, in terms of that, I would never say I don't believe in ghosts, though. I leave it open. I'm not going to be like him and be like, first date question, do you believe in ghosts? And, it's a deal breaker if they don't. But I just in terms of Christian upbringing and spirituality and spirits and all this type of stuff, I would never swear it off.
Kind of on the opposite side. You growing up in a Christian household, I know you said you would never ever use a Ouija board or anything like that.
No,
I probably wouldn't either, but not necessarily from a religious perspective, but from reading a lot of folklore, as a kid, and creepy things. Exactly. And it's like, why are you going to tick them off? If they're out there, leave them be. Leave them be.
Close them by. What are you opening
There's a
doors for?
reason why in every horror movie, right before the possession comes, even like ones that came out last year, and now it's getting just done to death. They always bring out the Ouija board.
Oh, yes.
They always had to contact something, ask it some questions. I know it's very cinematic to see the planchette sliding around, but they always have to do it. It just always gets worse.
And I remember when I made the mistake and watched Paranormal Activity, and I was watching it, and everybody else is like, "Oh, let's watch a scary movie. It'll be fun."
Yeah.
And I am there doing everything I can to not scream at the TV. What are you doing? Just because I know enough of the folklore kind of stuff behind it that I'm like, if that thing is real, you are going to take it off and you're going to...
Oh, yeah.
And they made lots of very, very bad mistakes.
It's like when they go down in the basement, right? You hear the thump in the night. First thing you do... Now, I'm going to back up a little bit. This is why you should sleep with the door closed, by the way. Don't go leaving stuff cracked, because when you're watching the movies, they're always slinking in. That little inch you left in the door was enough for something sinister to slide
Just the hands slide in around,
Fucking close that and lock that door. You go to bed for one. But if you do hear something tonight in the movies, what do? It's always the 6 or 7 year old girl or young boy that gets up and
the teenager not wearing any clothes.
Oh yeah. Take it upon ourselves to become fucking ghost hunters here and go on down to the basement, right?
It's certainly not the overweight 20-year-old stumbling out of the bedroom, squinting, wandering down the hallway, be like, "Is that him or what? Who's that?"
That's the thing, right? But the thing is it never ends well.
Yeah.
It's the one that ends up in the netherworld every time, right? The first 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
What happened to Sally? She's gone. Got up last night.
Shadow realm.
She's into the shadow realm. Yes, we got to go get her, right? Just fucking go to bed. Close the door. Don't go answering thumps and bumps, and certainly don't go down the basement ever by yourself. There's a reason why there's a primal fear of the dark, in my opinion. And I don't necessarily think that the world is full of evil spirits and evil ghosts and blah 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 and all this stuff, but take a chance. Don't arse around with Ouija boards. Don't go having seances. If you're going to hold hands, at least just play games or something, right?
Yeah, so do you have any stories yourself or anything?
Okay, so the only ghost story that I have, and it's not really my ghost story, it's just the only dumb, simple ghost story I've ever heard was when I was working in Goose Bay. I was working with a security company at the time, and they used to have a little shack that used to be manned 24/7, okay? So, anyways... One of the people that was on one of the shifts, he passed, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months before I started there. And they had a little picture of him, the obit from the newspaper. Yeah. And it was tacked onto the wall, right? So anyways, never knew the guy, never knew nothing about him. I noticed over the course of, it was ages. It was probably 3 or 4 weeks of night shifts, right? That this kettle in the back of the shack. And it's one of the little shitty kettles that got the little LED you push down on the tab and it lights up blue. Yeah. I used to notice because I'd have the laptop out, right? I get the hungry man feast out, have a scarf, right? So anyways, I noticed this little light would come on in the screen and reflect off. So I'd say, what the hell is that? I'd turn around, fucking kettle would be on. And because, this is another wonderful thing about getting old, I couldn't remember if I turned it on or not. Because, you might want to have a cup of tea. That's something you would do on a night shift too, right? So, anyways, that was all fine and good. Can't remember how it came up exactly, but I was sitting down with one of the boys that had been on shift with this guy for years.
Okay.
And it came up naturally in conversation somehow, somewhere along the lines of like, geez, boy, you know, I'm going to have to get the breakers or something checked here. That fucking kettle keeps coming on. Did it ever happen to you? And his face went like...
White as a ghost.
Well, not white as a ghost, but, you know, I definitely took, you know, the wind out of his sails for sure.
Yeah.
And he's like, did it come on 12 o'clock? And I said, I don't know. I was like, I have no idea. And he's like, well, you changes over at the gate around 11. He said, when did it happen? Did it happen right away? And I was like, I'm not sure. Why? I was like, I'll have to take more notice, I guess. He said, well, he said, I'll tell you right now. He's like, you might be a little bit freaked out and think I'm a bit crazy. He said, but the guy that used to work here used to come in every night off the road because he'd be on the road from like 11 until 1 o'clock in the morning. He used to come in for a cup of tea at 12 o'clock every night here at the shack and have a little cuffer because he got tired driving around on the road. He diabetes.
Oh, okay.
So anyways, he used to come in and have a chat, throw the kettle on, you know, sit down for a little bit. And he said, I've seen that happen every time our shift has been on night shift since he passed. And no one believes me. And I never brought it up because I thought I was crazy. And I was like, well, my son, you're not crazy. I said, I'm going to join in here pretty soon. So anyways, I was going to test it the next time he came back night shift. But you know what I did? Why tempt fate? I fucking unplugged the kettle. I unplugged the kettle and put her away down the cupboard, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Why take a chance?
I was going to say, did it still come on when you unplugged it? But no, you hid it away.
If it fucking came on in the cupboard, I'd be 100%.
Oh, yeah.
100%. But, you know, some goose base like, my geez, the friggin' transmission lines are made out of spaghetti noodles. There's something wrong with the power system, too, right?
No, it was a ghost. 100%.
Well, it's just too dumb a thing. Like, normally when people tell you bullshit ghost stories, they're always like, oh, you know, I got this one weird mask in my house that I bought at a junk sale for $2 and it looked evil when I bought it, but I fucking bought it anyways. And it jumps around the room at 11 o'clock every night. Fuck, you know, like those are usually the stories people tell you. But this is so dumb and simple that I'm almost inclined to believe it in a way.
Do you remember the military cemetery ghost from Goose Bay? Where if you, I don't know if Grace knows about this, but yeah, if you park the car in between these two trees up at the military cemetery and apparently turn the engine off and open your doors, your car battery will die. Apparently. So.
Do you sedate them all?
Maybe. But no, we've tried it one time with, I don't know if we tried it with my mom's Godmobile or what, but I do remember that. You look at his eyes. Look at. Oh yes.
My savior, I've got
so I was, and that's what I was transitioning to. Do you remember the one time we were driving that van? Maybe were you here for that time when we were driving? Okay, we were driving that. We were driving that van on the back road up near the military cemetery, and my mom always said, "Were you there too?" All right, so we were all driving, and there was a tape always on in there, and it was always just a mixture of like Christian music that my mom recorded, and Virtuoso was like one of the jams. We'd always put that one on. Anyways, we were just driving one night, probably had it quiet. I think we just had it on static because I think we were talking. So anyways, we were driving, and we kind of heard a voice coming through the static, and I remember being like, what the hell is that? Like, I was like, so I was like, we're going to turn on the Christian music to get rid of this, whatever this is. Like, we're getting clear of this. So anyways, we were driving along and I heard something and I turned it up a little bit louder. And I was like, God, like I can't hear it. Like, what is that? I cranked it up even louder and I heard somebody say help. And I don't remember what it was. It was like a girl's voice, someone saying help. And then Virtuoso started playing on bust because it was cranked up. So something said help, and then it was just like Virtuoso. You know, I'm not going to sing it on here, but, you know, oh my God, it was terrifying. And I just remembered it when you were mentioning, like.
I forgot all of it.
Yeah.
That is not a word of a lie. That's exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
I was shitbait.
Oh, yeah. And we shot home after that. That was it. Gone. Like, yeah.
Why take a chance?
Oh, we're not taking a chance. No.
Why take a chance?
What about you, Ham? Any ghost stories, paranormal stuff, anything?
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in ghosts like 100%, but like I do think that like places can have bad vibes.
Okay.
Sure. Like the military cemetery or.
Well, that forest fire burned all around the cemetery. The cemetery's left perfect. There was a huge forest fire. Everything's burned around it. Military cemetery, fine. Yeah.
And like a lot of the abandoned buildings around the base, like the old movie theater where like
Oh yeah.
people kill themselves.
Yeah.
Sounds like that place is terrifying. Like you go in there and you have like a sense of just dread.
Mm-hmm. The old popcorn bags on the floor. It's just like they cleared out one day and no one ever went back. Like that was it. And I mean, we used to break into those buildings all the time up on Seaside. And that one, I remember, it was very sketchy. And then some guy moved in.
Yeah.
I think it got weirder when that guy moved in.
He did a job because he did like a bit of a combo. He backed the bus into the building and welded the bus onto the building. So he had a bit of a makeshift mobile home. I guess.
Very strange guy.
Yeah. But one place I want to bring up in particular is here in town, actually.
Okay.
Do you remember the Slender Woods?
Yes, I do.
That
Out on Topsail Road,
terrible.
near the Burger King.
So there's a place near a Burger King.
Mm-hmm.
You can drive by and it looks like eerily similar to all the Marble Hornet videos. Like,
Which, if you're not familiar with, those are like the Slender Man videos that were out. You know, what year were they out? Like 2010, maybe probably earlier.
yeah,
But anyways, it looks exactly like where they filmed those. So like where Slender Man kind of got popular from.
Where's that left side, Ham, or right side of the woods? Like on
Nearing the Village Mall, nearing the mill. Oh, on the other side of the road.
on the
Other side of the road.
Where housing is too, over on that side.
Yeah, kind of. But there's a really thin woods. But anyways, go on, Ham.
yeah. That's unimportant to the fact that like what makes this terrifying is like whenever you drive by and like you could be listening to the radio or like Bluetooth or like anything hooked up like electronically, it just drops out like every time and turns to static. It's completely bizarre.
And you do a lot of driving around, so I don't know if you go by there often, but I do remember it happening multiple times. And Ham used to have a friend who lived down there. I don't know if he lives anywhere near there anymore, but there was one night in particular we were watching all these Marble Hornet videos, and when we went back, like driving home, I can't remember. I probably wanted to go to Burger King or something, but anyways, we were driving past, and my music cut out, and it was like auxiliary jacked in.
So the risk was worth the reward then.
I got Burger King, but I don't know. I didn't get to sleep very well that night, so I don't know if it was worth it or not. But
Definitely didn't sleep very well that night.
and I remember this person when we were in his vehicle driving downtown a couple of times, and it would cut out every single time without fail when you go by those woods. And I remember always saying like that looks like where they shot Marble Hornets, like those Slender Man videos. And it's
That woods gives me such bad vibes.
yeah, something happening there.
And it wasn't just one thing in particular, was it? Like, it wasn't just like, I know you don't use satellite radio, but it wasn't just like the satellite Sirius radio, or it wasn't just the Bluetooth stream or the FM train.
Well, mine was auxiliary, like the exact same way, like headphone jack. Now, the person that we're talking about, I think he might have had an FM transmitter. I'm not sure. I think he used to swap between FM transmitter and Sirius radio, like the trial. So Sirius is normal. It's still a bit strange, if every time you drive by, it could be a dead zone though. But no, there was something weird about it. Yeah, and it was in the right lane. Yeah, when you're passing the Burger King towards the Village Mall. Yeah,
Haunted Burger King.
That's a good Burger King.
It's very interesting because it's the type of thing where none of us are from here, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't grow up with the lore and the background of St. John's. The only few ghost stories I've heard, in fact, are like the Ghost of Cabot Tower, which I don't even know enough about to comment
Yeah.
on the backstory of it. But where we're not from here, we don't know. But I can tell you what, that Grace Hospital down there, that looks terrifying.
Yeah, the old nursing residence. I remember we searched up, and just very quickly, like we searched up one time about like the most haunted places in St. John's, and I'm in the horror. I want to get into filmmaking. Like if whoever's watching this doesn't know, so I write horror. I watch a lot of horror. So we were just one night. I remember I forced Josh and Ham. Well, Ham was up for it anyways, but Josh did not want to go anywhere near this.
Take a chance.
So anyways, we went down to the old nursing residence down there. But is it St. Clair's? Like what is it? Do you remember the name of it?
It was the Grace residence.
Is it? Okay. Well, I know it's the nursing residence for sure. Like it's where they used to put the nurses in training, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but
I think you're right.
yeah.
Right.
So we went down there just kind of seeing like, well, can we break in here? Like, what does it look like in there? I'd like to see the most haunted place in St. John's, or number 2 or number 3. And we could not even get near it. And it was boarded up for like the first 3 levels. There was no way in, like if we ever wanted to. If you got a really high ladder, maybe you can get in there, but it was you could not get in there. And then I went home and I remember reading some of the stories on there, and apparently like when they got the contractors in there to just board up the windows, they reported seeing like a little boy in pajamas running down the hallway. And the strange thing about it is back then, well, same way it is now, I guess, just the stairwells aren't there anymore. They got rid of the stairwells. So they were just like, there's this little boy in pajamas running down the hallway. And I remember reading that when I got home, like, well, maybe it was a good thing we couldn't get in.
Well, yeah, I do remember when we were reading that.
Yeah.
Another part of that was the people they had hired to go in and take out the copper piping and asbestos piping.
Yeah.
This line piping. They had to hire 4 or 5 different contractors because no one would keep the work. And it was reported that they kept seeing that little.
It was a little boy in pajamas. Yeah, I think.
Like
yeah.
that. No one wanted to.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to finish the job. You had to hire 4 or 5 contractors to get the work done. So they say.
Yeah.
Right?
That's how the legend goes.
That's like the building that I used to work in downtown. I think it's from what I understand one of the oldest buildings in St. John's. And apparently way back in the day it used to be a hotel. And there was this one room that apparently someone had died in the room.
Room 237.
1408 was it?
And ever since then, anybody who would walk by the room would hear knocking coming from within the room. But nobody ever rented out the room because just bad vibes.
Yeah.
Like Ham said. And then one day I think they were full up, and so somebody really needed a room. They stayed in there.
Mm-hmm.
Someone walking by hears knocking, hears a blood-curdling scream, opens the door. They're dead on the floor. And again, nobody would ever stay in that room, and again, you would hear knocking. And I heard this story after months of sitting in this office, and the radiator on the wall constantly would make clanging, knocking noises. So
at least my ghost was just trying to give me a cup of tea.
Yeah, your ghost was nice.
Yeah. Or my electrical problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we covered that.
Yeah. I don't need to hear any more ghost stories. I think I'm good. Yeah.
Let's put an end to that.
Yeah. What's your topic, Josh?
Okay, so as I sent out in the chat prior to this,
Yeah.
My topic is sketchy situations, right? So situations you ever found yourself in through fault or no fault of your own, something you survived, so on and so forth. I left it pretty vague for you guys to kind of come up with your own stories. But I figured I would start off with one of mine, of course, my topic, and I'll throw it back to sort of like when we were in high school, right? The good old days, right? Not to live in the past too much, but one of my first real instances of fear was when I faced, probably for the first time too, I faced my fear of heights. I am shit-baked of heights, like absolutely terrified. Gets weak knees in the pan of the pickup truck and everything. Like, you gotta get up in the back of the truck. The fucking knees are going way, right? So, you shall say. So anyways, we were, 15 or 16, I suppose, at the time.
We definitely had our license because there's no way we're walking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So I'll say 16. I know you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure Ham was there as well, and there was one other of our friends that was there because you need 4 people in order to get up no good, right? So anyway, what do you do when you're 16 Goose Bay, right? Shitty internet, nothing really to do. Well, you go find a great big old diesel tank and climb on top of it, of course, right? I mean, that's the Labrador thing to do. So anyways, there was a great big jet fuel storage tank down near the docks, of course, right next to a body of water, where it should be, of course.
Horribly dangerous.
Oh, yeah, nothing to it, right? So there was this giant jet fuel storage tank, and there was a very long, winding, like grand staircase, aluminum staircase that wound its way all around the top of the tank, right to the very top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, for whatever reason, I do not know why we got it in our heads, but we decided, let's get up on that now. So anyways.
Well, it used to.
Was there anything to impede you going up?
So
Did you have to climb over anything?
that was the thing. There used to be fences and with like barbed wire line fences around it, but they took down the fences, and what they did is they kind of cut the stairwell probably about I don't know 8 feet off the ground.
Like
it wasn't very high, like enough that if you were walking by, you couldn't walk up. But any back your truck up, get up there, ladder. Yeah.
I had my father's truck at the time.
Yeah.
And we just backed up to the tank. Got aboard the pan of the truck. Scared enough then as it was getting in the pan of the truck. But anyways, got up.
Yeah.
I think they did have it cut off for safety.
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't want 4 youngsters with diesel tanks. But anyways, so up we went. Don't know why I participated in this, but once I was in.
Peer pressure.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't back it then. Didn't want to look like a pussy. So anyways, we backed right up, got in the van of the truck, got up on the staircase. Now, the ascent wasn't too bad because I knew I just got to, all right, Josh, you got to just fucking fly up this like a banshee now and focus on the objective. And the objective is getting up there and looking cool and spray painting your name on the top of this. And
So cool.
Oh, yeah, fuck the fear. We got to go. So anyways, up we go. Right up to the top, right? Gets up to the top. Geez, we're probably up there for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes looking out the bay. And
Checking out the other people got their names spray painted there. I remember some of them. And do you remember the little latch on the roof?
The latch, so
Yeah.
this is something else.
Yeah.
One of us that was up there at the time, I can't remember who it was, but one of us told a story about a kid opening the latch at the top. Was that you?
Yeah.
So you remember what happened? Yeah. Apparently they opened the latch, and I guess the fumes killed them.
Yeah,
Was it?
the fumes will kill you like immediately if it's a tank full of jet fuel. Like
Yeah.
that stuff is like horribly poisonous. That's why I think it's funny that like your fear was like heights and not the fact that like the jet fuel was like horrible for you.
So well, to be honest, I smelled that for 3 years of my last job.
Yeah.
Probably permanently damaged anyways. But so we were up at the top of the tank, probably telling that story, arsing around, making a general nuisance of ourselves, right? Then it comes time to go. Get close to supper time.
What goes up must come down.
Well, time to eat, right? More importantly, we're not going to get any Kentucky Fried up here. So we start the descent. And of course, the boys wanted me to go first. So I'm going to set the pace for this. And what I failed to realize shooting up the stairwell was that to save weight, whoever made this staircase put little holes, but that big on the ground, in every single step, right? So you could just fucking gaze down at your imminent death as you were coming down. So as soon as I saw that, I mean, oh my God, my arsehole went right off my throat. Like it was pure like, how the fuck am I going to get down out of this? Like, that's it. We're going to have to get search and rescue out here. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it took me 2 minutes to get up. I bet you I was every bit on half an hour climbing down. Every shaking like a leaf, the whole staircase rattling with me going down, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it was pure terrifying. So for Sketchy Situations, yeah, that was definitely my real first taste of like my own fear and coming to terms with it. And it was definitely through fault of my own because it's like, why the fuck did we go up there in the first place? But yeah, that's sort of mine. So I'll throw it off to Grace. So I'd be interested to know what your sketchy situation is.
Okay, well, I don't typically get up to no good.
No climbing jet fuel tanks or breaking into old buildings on Seaside, nothing like that? No? All right.
Growing up in the suburbs, that doesn't really happen. But I don't drive. I take public transit. And anybody who takes public transit, I'm gonna say in general, anywhere, has run into some characters. I'm sure you can vouch for that. Yeah. So I used to work downtown, and there's this one bus stop where there's a few real characters who tend to hang out. There's this one guy who like notoriously will like go and shove you. Anyways, it's not so bad if you just stay out of his way.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I was standing there one day after work, waiting to go home. There's this guy there muttering to himself. But if you leave him alone, he doesn't bother you. That's fine. I get on the bus, and he gets on the bus as well.
Mm-hmm.
The bus is pretty much completely empty. So I sit in a seat by the window. And of course, in this completely empty bus, this gentleman decides to sit next to me.
Of course.
So, I mean, I'm not thrilled about this, but, I've got my headphones on. I'm minding my own business, and he's trying to talk to me. So I take off my headphones to be polite. He's asking me where I'm from.
Your favorite?
My favorite. I love being asked where I'm from. Anyway, so I've had the conversation of where are you from so many times with strangers that I can have a conversation all by myself. I don't even need to be there. I can ask all the questions.
You get tired of telling them Port of Ask.
So I can also tell when I should probably lie because the person is a little bit odd.
Yeah.
So I lie. I say I'm from Toronto. He asks me my name. I lie about my name. He asks me what I'm doing. I tell him I'm at school. I give him absolutely nothing that he could, try and find me later just because I got real bad feeling from this guy. And then he all this time very uncomfortably close to me, muttering. Also, in between asking me questions about myself, talking about corporal punishment.
Oh.
How he was abused in school as a child.
God.
Great conversation.
yeah, so I'm a little bit uncomfortable at this point. And he goes, oh, I've got something for you.
Oh, great.
So he reaches into his bag and he pulls out this little paper bag. And in this little paper bag, he has a small bar of soap wrapped in wax paper and a small bottle of lotion.
Fucking love
And
it.
he takes the lotion and he hands it to me and he says, this is for you. And I go, oh, no, thank you, sir. Like, I'm fine. I don't need it. He says, no, it's for you. Okay, all right. I don't want to offend the guy. I don't want to give him any reason to be unhappy with me. So I take it. Thank you very much. And then he says, do you happen to have a picture of yourself I could have? And I go, nope, and this is my stop. It was nowhere close to my stop, but I was not about to get off anywhere where he could follow me home. There was a grocery store nearby, so I ring the bell. I go, well, it was nice chatting with you, but I've got to go. And he won't let me out. And I say, sir, I need to get out. This is my stop. And he goes, well, I want you to shake my hand.
Great.
And I said, well, no, sir, I'm sorry. Like, I have to get going. And he refused to move until I shook his hand. And so I figured my options are try to climb over the seat in front of me or shake this guy's hand. And I was a little bit afraid if I tried to climb over the seat ahead of me, he would grab me. Didn't want to take the chance. So I shook his hand and squeezed past him and ran like hell into the grocery store, called a cab, and went home. So,
Wow. That is definitely like the definition of sketchy.
It's pretty sketchy, yeah.
That is sketchy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I have one
I don't want to follow that up.
similar to that one, but less confrontational, I think.
Their hands weren't quite as soft.
No lotion?
They weren't as lotioned up.
Oh, okay.
So I work at a convenience store, and I have for a while. At this point in time, I was doing overnights pretty consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I used to get this guy come in for a while, and he'd like chat me up. He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm new here," and he'd ask me like where I'm from as well, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm from out of town, but in province." And he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I just moved from like I can't remember where it was from. It was probably like Alberta or something."
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he talked to me like every once in a while for like whenever I'd see him on overnights, he'd like make sure to chat me up and be like, "You remember my name?" and stuff like that. And he became a regular. But one night when I was getting off my shift, I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, William, I was wondering if you wanted to come for a ride with me in my van, maybe sunset with me." And I'm like,
Was it a date?
I'm not sure if it was a date, but I was thinking more so along the lines like I might be murdered. So
Oh, okay.
Probably on store phone or your own phone?
he called me on the store phone for like my store.
Okay.
So
Blessed God.
needless to say, I didn't go on this murder date with him.
You broke his heart.
I broke his heart. I
Yeah.
never heard from him again after that. So yeah, just don't get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Don't,
Why take a chance, right?
Yeah.
But no, he didn't ask me to put lotion on my skin or anything like that. It was strictly like I think he might have been asking me out, but like it was after an overnight and I really didn't want to get stabbed.
Oh, he was asking you out. Tafari off the end of single clip. That's why.
I mean, if he'd asked you sometime in the afternoon, you might have been more open to it.
Yeah, maybe like I'm not going in for his like murder booty call. Like that's not happening.
No.
Ever almost been murdered, Colton?
Well, I mean, I have, but that's probably a tale for another time. But yeah, probably the most recent sketchy situations that I've gotten myself into is there was a bunch of them when Josh and I went to New York, just all the time. Like,
Oh, a fucking trip was one sketchy situation after another.
oh, well, just like every day. Like I was constantly dealing with like homeless people, but they were constantly like badgering me like all the time. Like if I'm sitting on a crowded subway train, they're getting up in my face and asking me if I'm paying attention. If I'm just walking down the street, they're like yelling at me, like directly at me. Like, so it was pretty bad. But the worst one for sure was on our last day there. It might've been the second last day there. I'm not too sure. But we were just trying to kill some time, going to see a movie later on, like, I don't know, the Mr. Rogers documentary or something.
I think it was.
Okay, so we were going to see Won't You Be My Neighbor. But
The ass end of the trip.
yeah, it was, I think it was the second, I think it was our last full day there. But anyways, we were just trying to kill about an hour and going into a Dave & Buster's. I just went to like the I Love NYC shop to get some souvenirs for my mom and Carvey and my dad and everybody else. And when we were going into Dave & Buster's, this guy walks up to me and goes, "Hey man, you look like a man who likes hip hop." And I kind of look at myself and like, God, I do not look like a guy who likes hip hop. Yeah. But I was like, all right, like, sure, I like hip hop. Why not? So he goes, "Hey man, like, you know, I'm just out here trying to make some money, trying to, you know, get off the streets type of thing. You know, we're trying to come up. I'm a rising artist. Here's my CD. Like, make sure to follow us on Spotify and like us on wherever, SoundCloud or something." But so he asked me my name and I was like, "Oh, I'm Colton." And he goes, "Colton, I'm going to call you C Easy because you're easy with the ladies and easy on the blunts." Like, oh yeah, that's exactly me to a T. So to a C. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, "Okay, sure. Like, I'll take your CD." But I was like, "But I can't pay for it. I got no money." And he's like, "That's fine, man. We're not taking money. You know, it's just, you know, we're just giving them out." And I was like, "Cool." Anyways, as soon as I take the CD, I drop it in my I Love NYC bag. He goes, "But we are taking donations. You know, we're trying to get some more studio time. We're trying to really trying to come up."
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And I was like, "Oh, man, like, I really can't give you money." This was the second last day. As Josh knows, it was a pretty tight budget when I was in New York. So I was pretty broke. I think I had like $28 to my name at this point. So I had nothing to spare, but I told him, "Look, I can give you $1. He's like, $1? And I was just like, "Yeah, just like $1. And at this point, out of my peripheral vision, I see a guy running after Josh because, of course, he left me on the street all by myself with this dude. Gone. Gone. So anyways, I was sitting there and I was like, "Okay, like, I can give you $1. And another guy comes out from Dave & Buster's and goes, "Hey, your friend in there said you'd spot him." And I was like, "Oh, well, I certainly can't spot Josh's CD and my own CD, but I was like, I can give you maybe $2, $1 or $2. And they seemed fine with it until I opened my wallet and there was a $20 bill and then like 8 $1 bills. So they probably thought it was all 20s or that I was lying and I was loaded. I was broke. And I was like, "No, I can only give you $1 or $2. And he's like, "No, man, I want that 20. That 20 would be good." And I was like, "I can't. Like, I can give you $1 or $2. And I took the $2 out. I was like, "I can give you like $2, one each. That's it for the CD." And they just said, "Oh man, that's just disrespectful. Like, you might as well just keep it." So I said, "Okay." So I took their CD out of my bag and I laid it on the ground. And I disrespected it big time. It was a major mistake. So anyways, I laid it on the ground. He's like, "You did not just do that. You did not just do that." And he started kind of chasing after me a little bit. So I just walked into the Dave & Buster's pretty calmly. And he grabbed me by the arm and he tried to pull me back out of the Dave & Buster's onto the street. And he'd tell me to pick up the CD. And I shoved him off and went into Dave & Buster's. And he's like, "Oh, you're lucky you're in there, white boy," shouting at me. I remember being like, my God, like.
The thing was with all of this was like 3 or 4 days into the trip.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize because, I mean, it was just one harassment after another with him, right? So when he got ambushed first, I was like, "Oh yeah, there's just someone else tantalizing him and he's just going to have like a 2 or 3 second polite fuck off conversation with him and then he'll be right in behind me."
Yeah.
When I turned around to have a look and to see where he was, here was Buddy's counterpart right next to me, giving me the same hustle as what he was getting at yours. So we got like targeted right on the spot. And I think it was because you had...
Well, we looked like a tourist. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand why they were targeting, and they were pretty aggressive. And I kind of wonder what they would have done if I went back out and kind of bent over to try and pick up the CD. Like, would have they pickpocketed me? Would they have tried to jump me or anything like that? And, like, you know, I wasn't really that scared. But the guy did leave, like, a bruise on my arm. Like, he grabbed me pretty hard trying to yank me out of the building. But, I mean... It's not that
just wrenching it away and going on indoors.
Yeah,
it could have turned into a tangle then.
Yeah, and it's not that sketchy, but it's just like every single day we dealt with that down there. Not that bad. I dealt with that. Yeah, but it's not that bad. But
it was New York.
It was New York. Yeah.
Odd because I mean I've been to New York several times. I've never had anything like that happen.
Maybe it's because you look like kind of bohemian.
Maybe I look less like a tourist.
I certainly look very white and sweaty and touristy, that's for sure. So, I mean...
What was funny was the first day we got there. We didn't realize just how hot it was going to be. I mean, I wasn't thinking New York was going to be.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But it was insane. Like,
Scorching.
it was probably like 35, stagnant temperature, no wind in the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
July.
And it's
Very hot.
sweating like pigs. He had on, I'll never forget this stuff they had on. He had on a Jurassic Park shirt, and the sweat pattern coming out on his chest looked just like Isla Nublar from the movie. It was the same thing.
I have never sweat that much in my life. Like, it was actually like a white salt imprint around the Jurassic Park logo. Like, it did look like Isla Nublar. Like, man, oh man.
And
Yeah.
we couldn't get over it. Like, I think changed clothes like 2 or 3 times that first day. And then we did sort of get climbed.
We did, yeah.
At the end of the trip. Unbelievable, the heat down there. I'll never go down there again in the summertime.
Also unbelievable, the harassment down there. But
Very surprised.
yeah.
What about like your like housing situation when you were down there? Like where you were staying, like how was that?
I thought it was fine. Josh was not a big fan of it, but I think he was kind of surprised by the whole Airbnb situation. It wasn't that sketchy. We were right on like South Harlem, so I didn't find it that bad. There was one time where we had to walk through the park at midnight or later than, and every time we were like climbing up these stairs, the lights were going out next to us, and we were going through this forest.
What happened? You got off the wrong.
We did, yeah. Yeah. It was a couple streets over, like probably like 4 or 5 blocks, like east. Yeah.
So anyways, didn't think a whole lot of it. I said, well, we can just dart up through the woods here, right? Very different in Newfoundland, darting up through the woods than down.
Oh, yes.
State. But anyways, that's what we did. We darted up through this little thicket that was there in between the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were cutting up through, not a word of a lie, the street lights, after we passed one, he cut out. And then he cut out. I was like, of course, then you hear something in the bush.
Yeah.
I was like, what in the hell is going on?
Oh, yeah. Like, that was the fastest I saw Josh move all trip, I think. Running up those stairs, gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, aside from that, it was a good trip. I enjoyed it. The accommodations weren't the best. I was a little bit more critical of it, probably because I was paying for it. But I was a little bit more like, it wasn't as advertised, but it wasn't enough to ruin the trip.
No.
Anyways, the harassment was grating, but strangely enough, I think you could just sort of acclimatize to that and put up with like, listen, it's not Newfoundland. You're not going to go into every single pharmacy and say, how are you doing? Where are you from? Blah, 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 and plan a moose hunting trip together. Like, that's not happening in New York, right?
No.
So you have to be in a different mindset for sure.
Yeah, and I think that kind of covers it for sketchy situations. Just for the last topic, I just want to do something pretty general. Like most weeks, we're going to have 4 full topics, but this week we got a little bit of housekeeping to do in terms of why do we even bother to start this podcast right now? Like, why did we get all of us together to do it? What are we planning on doing with this? What is this podcast? Like, if you made it this far, you joined, I don't know, my mom and Aunt Betty who made it up to this point.
Thanks for watching, man.
But I just kind of wanted to know your guys' opinions, your reasons why you decided to do a podcast, or even a fan of podcasting. Was there any inclination why to do this, or was it just because we kind of came up with it in Tim Hortons?
So who are we throwing out?
We can start with let's start with Grace for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why we're doing this?
Yeah. Why do you want to do it?
Well, I think it's just kind of fun. It's something that we've been joking about for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We have, very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Very different tastes in a lot of things. Food primarily, and
She has this bad taste in food, but
we always joked that we should start a podcast reviewing food. You pick one week, I pick the other week. Kind of mirroring our movie nights that we do,
Yeah.
where I pick one week, you pick the other week.
mm-hmm.
But we would, do restaurants, and so we would go somewhere nice and get like a charcuterie board on my night, and then
A what?
a charcuterie board, like a board with different cured meats and cheeses.
That's a plate pie. That's a plate.
Not a cold plate, no.
Some deli meat on there. You got the salami, the pepperoni, Vienna sausages, rimming it.
Then you got the little hors d'oeuvres with the little, what's it called, toothpick Vienna
Gherkins.
sausages,
Yeah.
gherkins on it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You really don't. And then the next week you would bring me somewhere like McDonald's,
Gourmet.
get me to try my first Big Mac or something like that.
Yeah.
And we joked that we would call it the Bougie and the Beast.
Which isn't out of the realm of possibility. I'd still be open to doing that, but yeah.
When we become rich and famous.
Of course, yeah.
But so when you guys were looking for a 4th person to join you,
Mhm.
have your token minority in different ways to join you, I was happy to oblige.
Yeah, and Josh, what kind of drew you to the podcast? What do you want to do it for? Are you a fan of podcasts? You know?
Well, you know the answer to this. But
Yeah.
I'm probably. I don't know. You might give me a run for my money for the oldest soul here at the table, but I'm definitely old. Like I'm usually like the only like radio I listen to is VOC and Back Talk. So besides, gotta listen to all the boys calling a bit fishery and stuff.
Of course.
Years after the moratorium, but yeah, I've actually never listened to a podcast before, so totally ignorant to it. Haven't got a sweet clue about anything to do with it. But what I do enjoy is I do like sitting down with very different minded people and having a genuinely good conversation, racket or row, whatever we can entertain without hating each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we've wasted many hours, at least three of us, and Grace has been around quite a bit as well when I've been there, but primarily myself and you sitting down bullshitting at Tim Hortons.
Oh yeah, hours and hours. Like,
Wanting to sit down, say meet up for a coffee or something now for an hour, and Christ, 11:30 is rolling around.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
very easily. So the brainchild actually, I believe, came up before Christmas. We were sitting down having a coffee at Tim's,
Mhm.
very similar to that, and it just sort of it progressed out of we were talking about something really funny, and he made mention of Jesus. He said, I wish we had like this on tape. Like this would actually be good. And I said, well, why don't we? What odds? It's just as well to do it. If you really want to do it, we can do it. So, and that's sort of where it just snowballed from there, I guess.
yeah, I mean, for the last, I've been listening to podcasts for over a decade now. I think I was like 15 or so when I started listening to the podcast. So it was always something that I always thought, yeah, I'd like to do it. And there was times throughout university where we had a good group of people. I was like, maybe I could pick this person. They'd bring that person has a really good radio voice, or this person's very strange. Like, so I thought we could have a good mix of people, but it was just never the right time. And since I'm kind of getting a little bit more into filmmaking and all that sort of thing, I was like, maybe this is a good time. We do have 4 people from very different backgrounds. Granted, the 3 of us are from Goose Bay, but in terms of how things have developed, we all have very different tastes, and we're pretty different. So,
I'd say we're pretty different. So
yeah, so I just thought it could be interesting if we could actually start a podcast and if we could actually hold a conversation for an hour, like we're pretty much at here now. And it was also just a way, like, as we get older, we can actually come together, we can keep talking. Like Grace and I, as she mentioned, we have our movie night where every week we'll make sure that we get together, we watch a movie, and we're pretty good about sticking to that. So it's just another way for me to hang out with Josh once a week for sure, if he doesn't have some woman on the go, so I don't see him on, for a full week. Or, I live with Ham, but it's a way to kind of get him out of his room or out of his shell a bit to kind of talk with us. We can figure out what's going on in his head. It's just an interesting thing that I would like to try. And just also with the way things are online now, just like a whole culture of extremes, like everything is the worst or everything's the best. It's like every single day is the worst day, and it's just grating on me.
Well, everything's very polar.
It's very polar, and it's just with a podcast. Yes, we could sit down for an hour and just rate things yes or no, but at least there's usually some room for discussion. And yeah, we're not going to be dealing with super serious topics on this. We probably won't be delving into real societal issues or politics or stuff much at all. But, if we can have a good conversation and actually have some discussion, make some people laugh, or, at least kill an hour of our time and have some fun doing it, I don't really see too much harm in giving it a shot.
No, that's right.
yeah, I'm kind of on board with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, like, it's mostly like podcasts are like my news essentially.
Mhm.
I don't have radio. I don't listen to satellite radio or watch TV news. Like, it's my news, and I grew up with like things like Table Talk and
Kind of funny.
Kind of Funny.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Yeah, they're a huge inspiration on just even the idea of this podcast. Just each of us bringing a topic each week that will be 4 full topics. Just that's what they did for ages, and they stopped doing it. Like, so there's a little bit of a gap there. I kind of missed that. Their table got worse as the years went on. So hopefully ours can stay strong, or, if one of us decides to leave, we can get someone good to replace them. But
Love how you just threw shade at it.
well, it is true, but they're better now, but there was a dark year there for sure. Yeah.
No. I think we all have like a different take to offer. So I think that's what makes this a doable thing. Like, it makes sense, and plus it gives me a chance to talk in kind of vent my thoughts, which I don't do very much because I kind of live in my head.
And get to ask Josh what's his fursona.
Yes.
Which
So now that you know that I'm an antelope, does that change your outlook or anything like that? Or are you going to sleep easier tonight? Is that a tick in the box?
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, I think that was well worth it. But if you like what we're doing here, trying to accomplish here, we are going to be launching a Patreon. I'm not sure exactly what the link is. Probably patreon.com/yourlastpodcast. So if you're looking, if you liked what we're doing here, would like to support the show moving forward and hopefully help us fund other shows. Like we got lots of ideas. Like Josh and I might have another podcast coming your way within the next week. So stay tuned for that. You can become a patron of ours, which is just, you can pledge $1 or $2 a month if you'd like, help us get things off the ground. Currently you won't have much to gain from that. I might try and send you a sticker or like a thank you message, but we don't really have too much money to go around to give back to the patrons. But of course, if anything ever got off the ground, we'd certainly look at adding tiers and stuff. But currently this show, it's always just going to be free. We're aiming to have it out every single Wednesday. So around supper time, Newfoundland time. So from then on out, it'll always be free. You don't get anything back, but maybe in the future you will. I'm not sure. So we'll see how things go.
We're not asking for money, but we are taking donations. That's what you're trying to say.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it's, we're going to...
So if your buck still looks far a few shackles over, will you?
Yeah, we're not looking for money necessarily. We're going to keep doing it regardless, but,
It helps.
It helps. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And with that, we're Your Last Podcast. I'm Colton.
I'm Josh.
There you go.
I'm Grace.
And we'll be back every week. And until our last. So thank you for watching.
See you later.
Adios.